Hello, all. Ted Simpson here, ready to do another fine painting for you today. Yet another voiceover video. I filmed the last few paintings all in a sequence here, and today's painting is going to be a wonderful seascape. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm sure, that the new season of the Joy of Painting has been released, and this is called New Smyrna Sunrise, I think. I think I'd research this before I hit that record button. Uh, but it is one of the most recent episodes from season 33 of The Joy of Painting with Nicholas Hankins. And I thought it was such a fun painting that the next day I said, I'm just going to do it. And hopefully I'll remember what I did, what I watched. So um, this is what I'm going to do. And with any type of Bob Ross style painting, you understand the technique and you just sort of adjust it, make your own version of it. I'm not trying to copy exactly. I've changed the colors a little bit, but once I get that very thin coat of the liquid white on the canvas, we are ready to begin. Let us define our horizon line here. I'm going to put a little bit of just painter's tape. It's not going to stick very well because I already covered it with the liquid white, but just enough so you can see the line. And when I'm putting the sky in here, it helps protect that nice clean edge. So you can see here that you probably want to put the tape on before you put the liquid white on. It'll work better. Where am I going to notice it? Pretty soon here. That tape is just fun. It's just looking to peel off. So make sure that it's relatively well stuck. Taking a very small amount, there it is, a very small amount of Indian yellow, just working some in the brush. You learn a thing or two, even though you might have been painting for a while here. You remember a thing or two when those happy accidents happen. So just sort of whipping that brush back and forth, that little bit of Indian yellow, throw some up into the sky in whatever form or shape you like. Now I wiped my brush out a little bit and then a couple of extra strokes just to blend everything out. I'm going to come right back, pick up a little yellow ochre, and to that, just a touch of the bright red. Find a color that works for you, kind of an orangey tone. Bright red, yellow ochre. Just tossing it up, getting a little feel for what happens. And as I'm running out of paint and picking up that liquid white, you can blend and soften this without even having to clean your brush first. If you do clean your brush, it just makes things a little neater. It doesn't move the paint as much. So just letting those colors kind of blend and lighten and soften and just get a beautiful little transitions here and there. All this fun stuff happening up in sunset. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of the alizarin crimson and a lot less phthalo blue and a bit of white. Red, white, blue. Trying to find a purple color here. And let's lighten it up just a little more. So a little subset of that pile of purple. Find a tone that you like. I want it a little more to the red side, that lavender color. Very little paint in the brush. Look at that, I made way too much. That's okay. I thought we would sweep and drop a little bit of purple up at the top. I really like what happens here down at the horizon line. A little foreshadowing for you. A little sweeping strokes. When those blend out, oh, it's going to look pretty. Now, you notice how I'm sweeping up at an angle, just kind of pulling to the left and up. Not as much crisscross strokes, but I want that sweeping up effect. Little darker so we can really see that horizon line. I thought that looked really nice. I love how Bob uses the colors to help protect the other colors here. You know, that little bit of crimson, or I'm sorry, the bright red and yellow ochre, help protect the purple from blending out and turning muddy, like hitting the yellow just by itself. It kind of turns brownish, but when you have the little separator of red, you don't get that browning effect. And wiping off the brush and sweeping up from the horizon, we can soften that purple again, sweeping up, and barely any of it's getting onto the yellow, and that's the goal here. No brown. Sometimes you do get some nasty, stormy brown skies, but I wanted to keep it nice and colorful. So I'm just playing around, figuring out what tone of purple I want. And there's our sky. Got some purple color now, adding a little bit of black to it. Darken all that purple down. No white in it now. I got rid of that little bit with white in it. And just trying to darken, darken, darken. Using the fan brush and that sweeping motion, look at these dark clouds. Now it's not so much a sweeping motion, but cradle strokes, as Nick says, is very shallow smiles. Just a little cloud shape there, a little scoopy, if that's a word. We don't want to make like big U's, little flatter, and it'll look like those flat, lazy old clouds. No paint on the brush, a very light touch. We soften those clouds right where they sit. You can stretch the clouds out a little bit, as much or as little as you want. Now I'm taking a little titanium white and just the flat of my small palette knife and literally just rubbing it Little circles there, rubbing it right into the fabric, getting it up. The idea is that we got a nice bright spot peeking out from underneath the clouds. So I put some up there right at the bottom edge and then just start fading downward, just rubbing at it with the knife. A couple of final strokes with the 1-inch brush. It's a very simple sky. I mean, we're not making any type of difficult movements here. And look at that. When we pull the tape off, you get that nice clean line. What I'm going to do here is trace out the just the basic shape of the wave. Just the big old shape. The wave crashes over, and you can see where that churn is going to happen. Big wave today. Big wave on a small canvas. Now, looks like I'm mixing a little black and blue together. And we're going to color in a little bit of shadow of that churn. Now, in this scene here, because the whole bottom of the canvas is white with liquid white, and we don't cover up the entire bottom water area with water off the bat, we need a little bit of shadow there. So you put a little bit of shadow there so that when we put on our cascading water effect, the shadow helps it stand out. So this color here, I'm doing a little bit different color than Nick used here. I just like this dark blue black here. And this is one of those scenes where it's almost like making it's a little bit reversed. You know, we're bringing the dark color up on a white canvas instead of using white on a colored water already. It's almost like a little negative or something. So I'm bringing it right on up now. Waves have that transparency here. So I try to leave a little bit where it's going to have the eye of the wave. Leave it white, leave it light. Makes it easier for the light to show. I tell you, this is a seascape that turned a corner for me a little bit. It really inspired me to do several seascapes, and it changed my approach to a number of different things. Bob did this one or two times as well. I always found it hard, at least in a classroom setting. Uh, but now I'm thinking it might work. It might work better. So I put a little indication of a distant wave back there, uh, using that light purple. That's like the very crest of the wave. And now I'm going to fill in everything behind it with my watercolor, getting it right up there to the edge of the horizon, even back behind the crashing wave. I sneak a little bit in. Now, actually leaving a tiny bit of white back there, if you don't get it all the way up, it's fine. It already looks like a couple of white caps hanging out back there, right at the horizon line. Now, using this same sweeping, cascading, I'm sorry, more of a trough stroke here with my water. Look how I'm bringing it back from the crashing wave, sweeping up, and that distant wave behind it already has some movement to it. Take some of that darker color. Looks like I used a little more black in my fan brush here, so you can change the color, add a little more dark color just to keep everything matching. And down here, right under that curl, this is all just flat, choppy water. Relatively flat, horizontal. So as long as you move the brush in a flat angle, the water looks a little flatter. If I sweep up like I'm doing here with the other part of the wave, the right side of the crasher, you sort of sweep up and it automatically gives a little bit of a verticality to the wave. And this is just blocking in color. No big deal. Some of it's darker, some of it's lighter. At the end, it's really not going to matter. We're not having any beach today. It looks like my canvas is a little dry at the bottom. I might have missed it with that liquid white. So you just gotta scrub a little harder. Fill in those little nooks and crannies of the canvas. There we go. The wet on wet makes this a lot easier. When you have those dry spots, you can really tell how hard this is to do with a dry canvas. That paint doesn't blend and slide as well. But once the color gets in there, then the paint will slide and blend a little bit better. So, using a clean 1-inch brush, I'm just going to try to fade upwards. Just trying to get up even closer to the edge. A little bit of transparency is fine. Just trying to sneak a little color up there. Even on the back side here and behind the wave as well. See, we're slowly painting the entire canvas. We just have to get the color on and work it up. Seascapes are interesting in that they don't really look right for a while. You're doing these steps, you're like, I'm not quite sure about this. It's looking a little weird. But then it all comes together. So filbert brush, titanium white, touch of cadmium yellow. Again, season to taste. You might want yours a little whiter. You might want yours a little yellower. This is just a nice light color on one side of the filbert. And you start right up at the apex there. You see that? And this is important. You don't go over it. You see how I just sort of move away? And I'm scrubbing down, scrubbing away. It's okay. It's going to look weird at first. But we want that nice bright color right up at the corner there. Now 2 hairs of the 1-inch brush here, tiny little circles, and blending down and away. It can easily stir up and just turn to mud if you go over it too many times. We just want the bottom of that eye softened. No paint on the brush, just teasing some color away. Now we could stop there, but if you just turn the brush over, you've got the bright color on the other side. Look at that. You scrub it in, get it up in the eye there, scrubbing down and out. You don't want to go back up to the eye or else it will kind of turn to mud. So, boom, lay that out once again. Get out that 1 inch brush. Oh, looks like I'm going to sneak a little bit of a transparency on that background wave. That wave is starting to curl up. A little bit on the other side of my crasher. Now, with just the lightest touch, just tickle it. I got to start whispering. It really helps you understand. It's just soft, soft, soft. And it turns to silk very quickly. And again, I try to work away from the eye. A light pull helps stretch that color out. And soften the bottom, lift up. With this, I like to tell my students, try to do this as little as you can get away with. You don't want to overwork it. I'm allowing that color to blend with the water. It will darken your transparency a little bit, but the remaining bit is so soft. Same thing though over there. I'm just letting those colors soften away. You might see a little sunlight kind of peeking through that thinner water here and there. That's all we're really looking for is a impression of that. Sometimes when you're doing this, you know, you just got to try it a couple of times until it starts to click. Don't worry too much about it or want to go over it a number of times. Right now, all that we're doing is some of the cruder, bulky stuff. We'll get into the details and make things happen. Another thing that I watched Nick do is he, I'm not doing it, is he pulled over once, turned the brush, pulled over once, and then reloaded the brush often. I kind of did 2 or 3 or 4 strokes, and that can cause a little mixing. But if you just do one stroke, turn the brush over, use the other corner, make a second stroke, and then just load the brush. So you're always using that bright, bright white. Here I am, getting ready to overwork things. There we go. Little cascade, that water throwing itself forward. Getting here, boy, I am really overdoing it. I guess I really wanted it bright there. There. Well, we try to do it in one stroke, but sometimes things happen. So a little bit of this lavender color lightened up. Actually darken it a little bit with the blue or change the value. A little darker. Figuring out a color that works. Boy, I'm just going back and forth. There we go. Now, all that first strokes was just sort of a tracing effect. Now I'm coming back here and really pushing on some shadow foam. This is going to be a nice foamy thing. All that wave churning, crashing over. Like many things here, tiny little circles. We put the shadow parts in first. Kind of outlines that crashing water, the foamy stuff. And then using that really chiseled edge, just let that fall off to the other side. Boy, it really outlines it. See, all that previous stuff we were messing with, that was just getting the basic design out there. Now we're starting to refine it. And now this little pushing it's really designed to bend the bristles, and the bending of the bristles deposits the paint and kind of that upward foam effect. Down underneath that cascade, I leave a little bit of the shadow. We're going to create a little softness there. A little bit more, working my way down. I've said this a number of times. I prefer using the fan brush to do this step of highlighting. But once in a while, I gotta keep up my chops with the filbert brush. There's that one episode where Bob does most of this wave with the palette knife. That's really fun watching him do that. Now, just sort of finding some spots where the white and the purple meet, soften this a little bit. Look at that. That's very nice. I really like the way that the white transitions to the dark. And it's very easy to overdo this. And all of a sudden, you just have a single color instead of shadow and highlight. Now, with a little more paint, this time on the fan brush, I'm going to trace over that purple line. The purple line was like a sketch, but it was also like shadow. I come right in here and put a little highlight up on top. And a little bit of that purple stays. And then I sweep backwards. Look at that wave. It looks like has some movement now. Pushing a little bit of paint up there and sweeping backwards. Look at the angles. Look how much of that color gets filled in. All that shadow is underneath still, and it's doing its job. We put highlights on top and cover a lot of it up. Now, here is where I push up with the fan brush. I find it gives a foamier effect, a little more natural a look, as much or as little as you like. I think I'm kind of going off and doing my own thing. I do some of these little pull forwards to put a little foam stuff in the verticality of that curl. And here I am again, overdoing it. I wanted to give everything just another little go around, this time with my 2-inch brush. Look at that. Even though I used the 2-inch brush, I still only used a few bristles there. So now that we have some of the basics of the wave in, now I'm going to come in with my liner brush. a little bit of my purple color and some paint thinner. And of course, that contrast is very visible when you put a few of these little purple things over the transparency or the eye of the wave. Then we switch over to the white. Now you can thin down titanium white. You can use liquid white either on its own or slightly thinned as well. It all depends how much you thin it, how much you have in the brush. You get different effects here. And I really like the way Nick does these little reverse J's. They're almost like little upside down fish hook. And it creates a very natural looking foam in your wave. All these little wiggly jiggly lines. And even back here, see how I can add detail to those background waves? You could put little jiggly lines back there too. Just want to really brighten up that edge. Just a little bit. Couple of those little white caps. I'm just lining the edge of the horizon. Even back behind there, just a few little things break up that dark space. And now I believe it's time for the foreground water. This was really fun to do. Oh, you already have some basics going on here in the water, some light areas and some dark areas. So that same sweeping motion is very similar to the clouds, isn't it? Just a little cradle stroke. We start highlighting, and boy, does this really start coming to life now. Just sweeping back and forth, getting a little extra foam in some spots, a little shadow in other spots. And as you're playing with it, you can bring a little water up, create that sense of the wall of water starting to come up and curl over. Just finding the angle there and drop it in. Maybe even pull a little water off the top. Look at that, little foamy streaks. It's really tempting to keep going and cover everything up. A couple of light pulls with my clean old, well, it might have a touch of liquid white in it, but just giving the water a little once over, soften some of those brush marks. If you saw them with the fan brush, it can sometimes make these little rake marks. And now it's all in the details, right? You just want to push. There I am. I can't help myself. Put a little more foam spray with the fan brush there. Nick actually flicked a little bit of water spray on there with the edge of his easel. I thought that was pretty fun. I always use my knife, and it was kind of like, why have I never done that before? Just flicked it with the edge of the easel or a palette. This did move right along, didn't it? I think some of the final details here line the outside edge there of that eye. If you accidentally covered some of it up, having that nice distinct line. Oh, it's just so lovely. There we go. You really want that thin. Here I go. I'm going to try to line that little area right there. There we go. Boy, that defines it. And maybe it sneaks down and out. When we're talking foam in the water and all these little final details, it can be several different colors. I'm just actually putting a little bit of extra dark just to darken some of those holes almost. You ever see when Bob uses his filbert brush and he punches in holes with some dark paint? This is similar to that. Just making sure that we have some nice dark areas here. And then thinning down, I think I've thinned down my white, added a little more paint in the brush so it really comes off bold. We're going to add more details here. I'm using those little wave patterns as a guide and just accentuating some of them with extra highlights, like the leading edge of them, sort of flicking the brush around, not really aiming too specifically. And you get to play around with that as much as you like, you know? Figure out what works for you, add as many details as you want, and here I am with a dark color here, signing, and we've got ourselves a completed painting, folks. I appreciate you sticking around with me. I should be doing some lovely new paintings soon. See you next time.